Teak, there's only so many times. We got this clearly same, conference. You'll get more of this. But there's only so many Peyton-Brady matchups. Mm-hmm. And there's only so many, obviously, Rodgers-Brady matchups. Let's savor this. This one's going to be fun, man. I can't wait.
Well, I mean, it's going to be fun, and it's too early to make any determinations about what this is going to mean for the rest of their seasons, because obviously Tom Brady is only 6 games in. He's actually looked pretty good. I mean, a couple of pick sixes here and there, but he's thrown 12 touchdowns, man. It's half of what he threw all of last season with the New England Patriots. And if Chris Godwin gets healthy and Mike Evans stays healthy and Gronk gets in the playing shape, and I mean, this offense could be as good as any that we've seen in Bucs history. But the story really is Aaron Rodgers and the job that they're doing on that side of the ball. I mean, we've been talking about, his season so far a lot because of these explosive days that he's been having. And so much credit goes to him and Matt LaFleur for figuring it out. Because it felt like for a while that was going to be a good marriage, just because he's talented and Matt LaFleur is a good head coach and a good play caller, but it felt like it was going to be, I don't know, disruptive, like an unhappy marriage, but it was successful, if that makes any sense. It seems like they've gotten all their issues worked out, and Aaron Rodgers is having an MVP season.
Well, that's why I think this game is so interesting here, because you say the story's Aaron Rodgers, and I hear you, but I think it's more multi-layered than that. I think in a lot of ways, at least to me, it's almost like the script has been flipped a little bit. I do think the Bucs will get better. I do think there'll be more harmony as they get more reps together. I get that, but right now, where we are in the season, going into Week 6, Tampa's 3-2. The point differential not incredibly impressive. Brady's been a little shaky at times in terms of mistakes, more so than we've ever seen. Gronk's been a non-factor. Whereas with the Packers, they're only a handful of teams have more points. And think about the negative energy that engulfed the Packers from draft night really until the start of the season. Oh, you drafted a quarterback in the first round. Oh, you neglected to get any wideouts. Well, it's an epic wide receiver draft. They didn't draft any wide receivers at all. Forget about in rounds 2 or 3. They didn't draft any of them. So I look at who the Bucs are now. Granted, the operative word is now. Who the Bucs are now and who the Packers are now. And I submit it was supposed to be flipped around the other way. I think so. Yeah, definitely.
It's impossible to say that was going
to
be.
But think about what we about what we talked about in the summer.
I understand.
This isn't what we thought was going to happen.
But the reality is Tom Brady's in a new place, man. He doesn't have, Josh McDaniels and Bill Belichick and the discipline that commands the New England Patriots organization. He's going someplace new, and Bruce Arians is great, but Bruce Arians isn't Bill Belichick, and so it's just different. Like the coordinator situation, it's just different. Tom Brady's learning how to play differently. I mean, he's throwing the ball down the field probably 40 times more than he did all of last season with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the first 5 weeks of the year, and so it's different. I know what it looked like on paper, but in reality, I think Tom Brady's still adjusting to what's going on down in Tampa, and so. He's been good. They've won games. They're 3-2. They're sitting atop the division. Maybe he's made some mistakes. Yeah, but that's to be expected when you go someplace new.
Listen, I get it. They've won games, but the Bears have won more games. Mm-hmm. I mean, with their
Bears
second quarterback.
Bears have an elite defense, though.
I don't know that. I don't know. It's good. Elite.
It's pretty good.
I know it's pretty good. It's good.
Look at the pressuring of the passer.
I understand.
The sacks on the passer. They are disruptive to opposing teams' offense. So yes, their offense may be middling, whether it was with the we can call him now a bust, Mitchell Trubisky, or Nick Foles, who is kind of just a steadying, very good, a little bit above average quarterback. It's their defense that's dominating for the Chicago Bears, and scheduling wise, it's been a little bit better. They've been a little bit better, in the early part of the schedule than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been. Defense wins, man. We don't want to say it, we don't want to admit it, but it does. You have a great one. It wins. That's why the Steelers are 5-0 right now. Yes, I know that Big Ben is having these days, but their defense is elite. They get after the quarterback, and they make it difficult for you to function, which is why when we talked about this earlier this week, the Browns and Steelers are going to be so compelling. because Baker Mayfield's going to got after this weekend.
And he's already got those ribs a barking.
That's right.
One pop, boom.
That's right.
Hopefully not, but you never know.
I thought it was something else too.
Well, I thought it was the ribs.
I think it was
Was
ribs,
the ribs
but
and
it was
the
also
shoulder?
something else. Yeah, I think it might have been the shoulder too.
Well, he's a tough kid. He'll fight through
But
it.
he's going to get hit a lot.
He's going to get popped. Steelers defense. And again, I like the Bears defense. I don't know that it's great, but listen, either way, for me, the bottom line, and I don't know that everybody sees it this way, but and I don't even really feel the need to defend who the Bucs are now, because I didn't invest a lot of faith in them coming into the season, nor did you.
No.
You don't have them going to the Super Bowl.
Nope.
I don't have them going to the Super Bowl. I didn't have them going to the conference championship game.
They're just really interesting.
They are very interesting for all the reasons that we know, but you look at the NFC right now, and you've got, all right, the Packers have more wins, the Bears have more wins, the Saints have the same amount of wins, the Carolina Panthers have the same amount of wins, Seattle's got 2 more wins, they're undefeated, the Rams have another win, the Cardinals have the same amount of wins. This isn't me saying that the Bucs are dead and they have no shot to resuscitate. They are an evolving team. I'm definitely going to grant you that. But, when there's, I think I just said 8 teams, 8-ish, 8 or 9 teams that either have more or the same amount of wins as the Bucs, that's a story to me.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of a story to me.
Yeah, it is, but it's still early. I mean, we're 5 weeks in, which makes this game, I think, compelling and interesting. But let's be real. If the Bucs fall to 3-3 on the year, now that make the Packers. If the Packers win, they'll be 5-0.
5-0.
So
same as Seattle. See what Seattle
So
does.
if the Bucs fall to 3-3 and the Packers, the Bucs fall to 3-3 and the Packers go to 5-0, are the Bucs out of it? No, of course not. You know why? Because they can still win the division, and if they get better as it goes on, they'd be one of those dangerous teams that just coming into its own as the season comes down the stretch. But I mean, yeah, the conversation in macro is about the Bucs and the Panthers and where not the Panthers, the Packers, and where they sit in their respective divisions and where they sit in the NFC. But the reason people are going to tune in and watch this game is because we're watching Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers, which is just, I mean, you don't get to see epic showdowns like this all the time. It just doesn't line up, especially when both teams are good, or at least good enough that they're interesting. So that's what this weekend is going to be about, is the matchups that we're going to see. Even though they aren't necessarily playing against each other, they're playing each other's teams.
Yep. The other thing too, we'll keep an eye on Seattle and the Packers. Obviously, those are not. I don't think there'll be fans in either venue by. Well, you never know. I mean,
Seattle's on bye. Yeah, Seattle's bye this week.
Yep, Seattle's not playing. But as we get to January, if everybody's still standing, and it looks like they all should be.
Like when it matters? Like, what are the game? Where are you at?
Do you really want Tom Brady to go into Lambeau at the age of 41? It could be 15 degrees out.
That's a good point.
Do you really want him to go up to Seattle with sideways freezing rain? It could be 20 degrees out.
And if they're fans, it's a home field advantage. I know we say there is no home field advantage.
Yep.
But that is certainly one at CenturyLink.
There's no doubt. And, I was thinking about this, too, today. Maybe a little wrapped up in the moment. I'm sure some old timers would debate this. That's funny. I was just debating with. We're going to get into Clayton Kershaw later, but I've had this ongoing conversation with some of my buddies on why I still defend Kershaw. And Sandy Koufax got pulled in, even though none of us saw Sandy pitch. Koufax got brought into the conversation. And maybe I am a prisoner of the moment with Kershaw, though I don't think so. I think my argument's pretty sensible. Nor do I think I'm a prisoner of the moment with this statement, but some might, construe it otherwise. In the last 10 years, is it fair? I'll ask you, is it fair to say that in the last 10 years, we have been treated to, once Brady and Rodgers play again this weekend, the 2 best quarterback matchups in the history of football? Peyton and Brady and Rodgers and Brady.
Yeah.
Because you want to tell me, like, the Bradshaws, we love Terry. He can't shine these guys' shoe. He can't. He can't do it.
Yeah.
Dan Marino, love Dan. No championships. That's a little problematic. All the quarterbacks that you would say, well, what about this guy? What about that guy? I can easily say Brady's number 1, Peyton's number 2, and Montana for sure. But Montana didn't have that peer, I don't think, that replicates what Brady and Rodgers brings to the table.
True. But I think the real reason that it's exciting now, more exciting and more lasting than what we are used to seeing in the history of the NFL. It's why your statement, it's almost not debatable, because the game has changed so much, and these guys are expected if they're down, or not even if they're down, to throw the ball 40, 50 times a day, right? It's just easier to move the ball forward than going up against some of these stout defenses that stop the run. You just throw the ball around the field. And if you have a good quarterback, and I guess that's part of the conversation. When you have a good quarterback, you can do that. And it's not you're not risking, time of possession. You're not risking going 3 and outs. When you have good quarterbacks who complete passes, high percentage of their passes, it's just as good as having a good running game. So the game has changed. And I think when you look at the game that we enjoy now versus what we used to enjoy back in whether it was the 80s or even before then, it was you didn't have these matchups. They just weren't the same because it wasn't so much on the quarterback. Yeah. Like, you needed good running backs back then. As crazy as it is to think about in today's day and age, if you didn't have a good running back back in the 70s and 80s, that's what would cause you trouble, because that's how you earned your yardage the hard way. Yeah. Now they don't earn it the hard way. At least not some teams don't earn it the hard way.
Hey, listen, it's a good point, because you could take somebody. I'll just take Bradshaw again. Take Bradshaw and, I don't know, the tail end of Staubach, or whatever, however, just match him up with anybody that you want from that era, right? I mean, it's conceivable that, I don't have a box score in front of me, but just to your point, the way the game was played back in the day, if Bradshaw played Staubach, Bradshaw might have thrown the ball 19 times.
Yeah, if that.
So
they didn't throw the ball a lot at all.
No. So aesthetically, it looked different. Emotionally, it felt different. And also, let's face it, when you sat down to watch a game in 1977 or even 1987, you didn't sit down armed with this immediate recall of legacy bullet points, getting ready to, just shuffle through the deck and spit this out to defend your guy and spit that out to defend, or maybe, be a detractor for a certain player. We watch these games differently because we watch with a more discerning eye, because we're more educated.
Yeah, that's
Not
right.
that we know the game of football necessarily better, but I think just based on the numbers and the access to data, and all the different, there were no shows like this on in 1977. You get to hear points of view. I just think it's a more informed, more informed consumer, I think, is fair.
Do you think this is a rivalry game? Does it feel like a rivalry game?
I think Brady no, it doesn't feel like a rivalry game.
Me either.
But to me, I believe that, listen, Rodgers you don't get to that level, this, without being egotistical and driven, and hopefully you check the ego, but incredibly driven and all. Tom Brady, and I know you say, well, he's got 12 touchdowns. Tom Brady knows that he's not playing as well as people thought he would play. He knows it. He's got multiple pick sixes, more mistakes. He's 3-2.
I know, but he is 43 also.
But then don't have the championship aspirations. We can't have it both ways. We can't say, well, and again, we don't think they're going to the Super Bowl, but a lot of people do. Well, you can't tout Tom Brady and the Bucs as a Super Bowl contender during the summer and then say, well, he is 43, and the arms. You can't do that. That's not the way it goes.
True, but I think so many people put the cart before the horse, and they short circuit the process, or they discount the process and the
That's
path.
the truest words that have ever been spoken on this show, man.
True, they don't think about the path that it takes to get there. They just they see it on paper and think that it's just going to happen. And reality is, you got new bodies, man. There's new people that Tom Brady has to get to know and trust and have faith in. And, it feels like it's all hunky-dory with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin when they have these big plays, or O.J. Howard, who's now out. It feels like it's all good because they make some plays here or there, but there's not trust yet. They're still in the young stages of this relationship. It's only 5 games in, and there's still a lot of football left to be played. So, yeah, you can talk about having a championship aspiration for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I don't have them there yet. I mean, if they start, if they win this game against the Green Bay Packers and do it somewhat convincingly at home, maybe it'll creep into my mind. You beat one of the best in the conference, then maybe you can start having that conversation. They haven't beat anybody yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would change the way I feel about them as well. Not to the point where I would elevate them over teams that I think could be better, or maybe are better now. But it would elevate them a peg. And quite frankly, if the Packers lose a tight one, and I'm actually kind of leaning toward the Packers here, but if the Packers lose a tight one, I would keep them, on par with how I perceive them now. I wouldn't, like you wouldn't lose cosmetic points if you lose by 3 points or 7 points to a talented Bucs team on the road.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
right. I mean, the Buccaneers they've beaten the Panthers. Mm-hmm. They beat the Broncos.
They lost to the Bears.
They beat the Chargers. They haven't, and they were down big against the Chargers and came back, right? And then they lose to the Bears and they lose to the Saints. And the Saints at the beginning of the season weren't the Saints that we're seeing now. So they haven't beat anybody.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
And the good defenses that they had to play, the good defense that they had to play last Thursday night, they lost.
Yep.
So, there's a lot to be proven here for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Well, the offensive line's not good. What was I know that the Bears' defense, whether it's great or really good, whatever, but it's obviously a weapon.
Yeah, they just get after the quarterback. I mean, their back end is not as good as it has been, but Khalil Mack is, I think, second or third in the league in quarterback hits. And pressures and sacks, they're right up there, 1 or 2 as a team in the league. So they get after the quarterback with their front 4 and front 7.
Yeah, and there was a stat that I referenced after the game. That was a Thursday night game. So Friday, I guess it was last Friday. I remember saying this in the first segment. I said, and I wish I had it in front of me. It's in my other notebook. But Khalil Mack won on like roughly 17% of his pass rush opportunities, and that's problematic because Tom Brady's not going to he might
not moving nowhere.
He might get you a little 6 inches on each side of the pocket, but that's about it. So if he doesn't have time to throw, they go nowhere this season.
Right. That's right.
I don't know how you debate that. At least Russell's got magic. Mahomes has magic. Lamar has magic. Other things if other lines erode around certain players, they can still manipulate it enough to keep themselves offensively relevant. Tom Brady can't do that. So we'll see. Scheme, they need to adjust, and they need to play better. But it's going to be a lot of fun. Safer, you don't get this all the time. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell to be notified when we drop fresh content.